Hello, everybody. I have got I'm going to do a video here quick on Final Fantasy 14. So, I have just finished my last class. I have got everything, literally everything to 80, other than obviously Blue Mage because it's capped out at 60. And I just wanted to make a little bit of a video here just to kind of talk to you about like kind of what I liked on the way up with everything, and just a bit about all the different classes. So I'm actually going to start here. Let's talk a little bit about Blue Mage first. So if you've played like Final Fantasy VI, or I guess it was technically Final Fantasy III on Super Nintendo, there was that character there, and I should say, there's a ton of different Final Fantasy games that have the Blue Mage in it, but that's what I remember it from. But the Blue Mage in this game is kind of like like the translation of that to an MMO, I guess I would say. So a lot of the same things where you like learn skills from different monsters and stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. The only thing with the Blue Mage though is it's called a limited job. So you can't like run it with different classes like you normally can. So like you can't run a blue mage with a red mage through like the duty finder. Like if you've got a bunch of friends that you play with, I think you can do that. But I haven't played around with it too much just because I'll be honest, I don't really take this class all that seriously. They've done some things to I guess add content, I guess, for the blue mage, which I think is kind of cool, but not one of the oops, sorry about that. Not one of the classes that I really like that much. So the last, I'm actually going to go with the group of the group of classes that I actually dislike the most is these magical caster classes. I just don't like casters in general, and that's pretty much in every game that I play. It's pretty rare that I come across a caster that I actually do enjoy. So blue mage, whatever. Again, it's kind of a weird class. Black Mage, this is my least favorite class of everything. Like, literally my least favorite class. Just, I mean, part of it is definitely because I never even bothered to really get the rotation down that well. But, I mean, they can be good. It's just, again, it's a caster, and I just don't like the way the class works. And I'll be honest, Summoner, I haven't actually played Summoner since level 50. The Summoner and the Scholar are tied together because of their base class Arcanist. So as you level Arcanist, or one or the other, however you want to look at it, both of the classes actually level at the same time. I see I actually have quests apparently that I need to do. Again, because I haven't played this since level 50. But so I'll be honest. I don't know anything about the Scholar or Summoner anymore. Again, I have not even played it since level 50. Now, the one caster that I actually don't mind as much is the Red Mage. Red Mage is kind of interesting, where you cast once and then it gives you a buff that makes your next cast instant, which I think is actually kind of cool. And then on top of that, they have a bunch of melee moves, so basically you build up it's kind of like a little mana bar, and then you unleash it using your melee skills. So as far as the casters go, I would say that Red Mage is the one that I like the most, although I still don't particularly like them. So let's move into the next group. I'm actually going to talk, let's start with Dancer. So when the Dancer actually came out, when the expansion came out that had the Dancer in it, I was actually really excited because I liked the Dancer from Final Fantasy Tactics. It was just a really cool class there. Translated into Final Fantasy 14, however, I don't like it as much. It does let you designate a dance partner, which boosts up their damage along with yours. When you use your kind of like your dance maneuvers, which is kind of cool, but I don't really think that their damage is all that great. Which, whatever, they're kind of admittedly trading it off as in order to give some of their own damage, kind of to their dance partner. which I'm not wild about, but whatever. Um, Other than that, it's it's a pretty typical range class. These range classes don't really stand out that much to me. I would say Dancer is probably the um, almost like a combination of the two, or like a midway point between Machinist and Bard. So like Machinist doesn't have any like group abilities whatsoever, as far as I remember. Whereas the Bard actually does have some buffs that benefit the group. And so again, Dancer is kind of like the midway point between the two. So kind of go with whatever you think is best. Again, though, I was really disappointed in the Dancer. I just I didn't know what to expect, so it was kind of like whatever. But generally disappointed in that class. But whatever, you can't win them all. Bard, I actually still really like Bard. I'll be honest. I kind of started to like Bard way back. Even when level 50 was the cap, and I kind of still have liked it throughout. So I'm not going to spend that much time though on the Bard. The only thing with the Bard though is it's always been much more group oriented. So unfortunately, their damage kind of suffers as a result of that. But I still do like the fact that a lot of their abilities are kind of triggered by when they get crits and their songs are playing. So I would say that's the one thing that I like the most. And actually, I think it's like the mechanic that I actually like the most in this game. I mean, it's kind of obnoxious when you're not getting crits, because then your damage can kind of suffer. But that's RNG for you. So. Again, I would say definitely of the physical, or the physical range DPS, I like Bard the most. I like Dancer probably the worst or the least. And actually, I do like Machinist a lot. So Machinist is kind of, doesn't have a whole lot of group utility type stuff, but I do like that a lot of their abilities are basically Edgar's tools from Final Fantasy VI. And he was one of my favorite characters there. So like you've got the drill, you've got air anchor, auto crossbow, flamethrower, bioblaster. So really kind of a cool, kind of bit of a throwback or a shout out maybe to Final Fantasy VI again. So overall, and again, the damage actually on the Machinist is really good. So that's always nice. You can get it, you might as well. Alright, so let's move into the physical DPS. I'll start with the one that I like the least, which is the Samurai. The reason being, I really don't like that they're, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but Yojutsu, it has a cast time. I find that completely obnoxious for for the same reason why I don't like the casters. I just don't want to, be stuck in one spot casting something, especially as a physical DPS. So that is the one thing that I dislike about it the most. The actual damage is pretty good with the Samurai, though. A lot of the abilities look kind of cool too, so that's kind of neat. But overall, again, I think for the physical melee DPS, I dislike Samurai the most. Next would be Ninja. I still do not like the ninjutsu command. I don't like that you basically have to stop everything and use ninjutsu. That's always been my issue with it. The good thing is obviously it doesn't actually have a cast time, so it's instant when you do use it. But I don't know. There's something about stopping your rotation to do a bunch of different button presses to to fire off another skill. So anyway, Ninja, yeah, like I said, still one of my least favorite of the melee classes. Dragoon, now this is where we're getting into the classes that I like a little bit more. I'm missing some stuff for it. That's kind of cool. Dragoon, I've always kind of liked it, just because it's got some. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Got a dry air in the house. Anyways, all right. So Dragoon. A lot of really cool skills. I think that generally it just looks really good. The only thing about the Dragoon is that, like the Samurai Samurai has to, or doesn't have to worry about his positionals. So Ninja actually does have at least one skill that's, actually it's got a couple of skills that are positional now that I think about it. Dragoon has a few that are positional as well, which, you know, is a little obnoxious, but it is what it is. But again, I think that a lot of the skills, especially the jumps, are really cool and fun. So, yeah, it's one of the things that I like the most about it. Other than that, though, the Dragoon is pretty fun to play as. The rotations are not too difficult to get down. And then on top of that, it does have a this ability called Dragon Sight, where it actually does let you buff up one other character's damage that's in your party for a little bit of time. So that's kind of neat. It's got a little bit of, you know, group utility, I guess you can call it. But like I said, you know, mostly it's just a fun class to play. Again, I really like the jumps. And all right, so let's finish up on Monk. Monk is still. Oh, can't. Apparently, I'm still in combat with this training dummy, so I have to go back here. Womp womp. Come on. There we go. I'm missing all of my gear apparently on it. There we go. All right. Yeah. So, anyways, Monk. Monk is still my favorite DPS class, period. I think it's just the most fun. There's a lot to do with it. You're constantly moving because it's got, you know, the most positionals of any DPS class still. So you're never bored with the Monk. And I think a lot of the moves look pretty cool too. Elixir Field is one of them. So yeah, other than that, I don't have a whole lot else to say about Monk. Again, I just think that it's the most fun class for me to play as, anyway. As far as the DPS classes go. But I will say, I saved a lot of my healers. I think I got them all, you know, up into like 50, you know, years and years ago. And then I kind of stopped playing them. And then when I came back, when the Dancer came out, I started leveling up them all up again. And I do have to say, they are a blast. That kind of sounds a little bit weird, but yeah, it's fun that you get to DPS and, you know, do something else. As kind of, I mean, you don't get to DPS obviously as you know, intensively as the actual DPS classes, but you still do get to DPS as well as, you know, keep everybody healed up. And, you know, it's kind of fun to be able to play that. I should have actually spoken to about this a little bit before. So when I came back, I haven't really done any other raiding. So when I speak about this, all of this, I'm really speaking from a leveling standpoint. I'm not even talking about the raiding. Because again, I haven't actually raided for probably 2 years now. So it's just, you know, wasn't drawing me in like it used to. But anyways, all right. Excuse me. So as far as the healers go, I dislike Scholar the most. I'm not really sure why. I think it's I don't know. Yeah, there's just something about it that I don't really like. I don't feel like the heals. I mean, so Adlo is you know, when you're doing big pulls, you pretty much have to spam Adlo in order to keep your tank alive. And then if you can try to sneak in a Physic in between. But the problem is there's not like an upgraded version of Physic. Like the White Mage has an upgraded version of Cure. And Astrologian has the upgraded version of, I think is it Helios? I don't know, whatever their base heal skill is called. So that's the problem that I see with Scholar. So you're spamming Adlo, which is extremely expensive. So if you're not paying attention to your mana, you can really kind of bone yourself pretty hard. So you got to be really careful with that. Now, the other thing though with them is they just don't. I'm not really impressed with the cooldowns that they get, other than XCOG and I don't know. Illustrate's okay, but XCOG is actually really good. So this one's a heal that activates, as you can see there, when your target falls below 50%, and that's a pretty decent heal. So basically, you know, when a tank goes to do a big pull like that, you drop XCOG on them, and then you just keep spamming Adlo. And if they fall below 50%, XCOG fires, and then they get a good heal. You know, so that's really how the big pulls work. when you're playing Scholar, and then when things really start to go wrong, you can throw in a Lustrate, or like Indomitability. This is a great skill, especially if you've got some DPS that haven't been careful and have taken some damage, and you're worried about them dying. I mean, the reason why that's so good is it's because it's off global cooldown. So as you're spamming Adlo or waiting for Adlo to come back off of cooldown, you can hit Indom, and it'll help out with keeping everybody alive. So generally, that is how I play Scholar. Again, as far as the healers go, it's my least favorite, but it's still good. Second favorite, or there's only three, so I'd say the number two, or my number two, is the Astro. Astro is really cool because it's got this card mechanic that lets you throw out buffs to your teammates. Generally, the best way to do this is to be, again, we're talking in terms of like big pulls. your tank is busy doing his thing, and you're trying to throw out heals. Well, in between heals, you can actually, target another party member and give them a card, and then, go back to healing immediately. So that's kind of the cool part about Astro. The other kind of neat thing about them is they actually have stances, and I should have actually talked a little bit about this with Scholar, because Scholar is really all about shielding. Whereas White Mage is all about just direct heals. And then you've got Astro, which is kind of like, again, these stances are actually kind of a way to split the difference. So like if you're with a White Mage, you want to be in Nocturnal Sect, because this will actually give you some shields to your abilities. Whereas if you're with a Scholar, on the other hand, you can go into Diurnal instead, and you'll get regenerative abilities that go along with a couple of your skills. When I was leveling, I always used Diurnal. I literally never used Nocturnal for leveling, just because I think that the regen is just better than shields. So. Again, that was how I played on the Astro. The one last thing that I'll speak about is the thing with the Astro too that you have to be really careful with is you really have to watch your mana. It's really easy to run out on Astro, and the reason being is they've only really got, light speed actually is amazing. So it reduces MP costs by 50% and cast times by 2.5 seconds. So it basically makes all your cast times nothing or zero, and it reduces your mana cost, which again is really nice, but that only takes you so far. The other great thing about this class is actually these cooldowns are really good. Unfortunately, Celestial Intersection is, this is an amazing ability because it's off GCD. Again, actually most of these three abilities here are off GCDs, which is why I like them so much. Even actually light speed is as well, but that's kind of what kind of makes or breaks you when you're actually healing, is the ability to effectively use your off GCDs in between your actual heals. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to just keep up your tank by using your your GCD heals. Again, unless your tank is a god or something, it's just not going to happen. So you have to be really careful in how you use your other abilities. And the Astro actually does have a couple of really good ones. Earthly Star is actually really good too. So you drop a little spot on the ground, and then you can either just let it sit there, and eventually it'll explode. Basically, it'll give you a really good heal. So the longer you let it sit, or I should say, if you let it sit long enough, it increases the potency of the heal. So that's really good to, drop right away when you start a big pull. That way, if your tank starts getting low on life, hopefully it'll time out right where you get a really, really good heal when it finally does explode. So yeah, so I would say that Again, Astro is my second best. Again, it's mostly because of the cards. It's just kind of fun to be able to throw out some extra damage, you know, to your group members. All right, so let's move on. Last, obviously, healer. There's only one left, and my by far favorite is the White Mage. I just love this class. It's so freaking good. I mean, for one thing, Holy is amazing. So this is an AoE that also stuns for a couple of seconds. So like, I mean, when you go to do a really big pull, you can swift cast a Holy in the middle, and you know, your tank just doesn't take any damage for 4 seconds. And that can give you a little bit of extra time to, you know, throw in some other off GCD heals. So like, generally the way that your heals work, you know, you're spamming heals, boom, you can throw a Tetragrammaton in between there. That's a really good, I mean, 700 cure potency, that's disgustingly good. Divine Benison is really actually interesting too, because it actually just gives you a shield. There it even says it's a shield equivalent to a heal of 500 potency. So that's kind of like even like a little bit encroaching in on the Scholar territory, which is kind of funny. Asylum is great too. So this is basically just a heal over time that anybody standing within it is healed. So again, that's just great for big pulls, because, you know, if you've got a, I mean, you generally want this down anyway, because your tank will obviously be getting healed. But if any of your DPS accidentally takes some damage, it'll help keep them healthy. And then Assize is another really good one too. This is off GCD. Really good heal potency, 400. It restores 5% of your maximum health, and it's off a global cooldown. It's just so good. That skill's amazing. And then on top of that, they've got Thin Air. Reduces MP cost of all skills by 100%. Like, what? This is too good. Like, I don't know why they gave White Mage this ability, but it's amazing. Combine that with Presence of Mind. Reduces spell cast time, recast time, and auto attack delay by 20%. I mean, just, you know, oh crap, you know, the tank's starting to, you know, tank's not doing real well. You just hit that bad boy, and it speeds up all your heals super quick. And then obviously you've got your oh crap, you know, there's no way, or like my tank is almost dead, boom, benediction, your health is completely full. So again, I think White Mage is by far and away the best healing class, by far, like literally by a long shot. You know, and then it's got, you know, regen is always great to just keep people or get people back to full. If they've taken a little bit of damage, you can just throw it a regen, and they'll slowly get their health back. So again, the reason why White Mage is so good is these cooldowns, though. Like, the other two classes just don't have anything that's as good as, I mean, Thin Air. Like, what? You don't use any mana for 12 seconds? Okay. I don't know. Seems too good. Whatever. I love it, though. Last thing I'll talk about healers is Rescue. Rescue is fun. Rescue is probably the most the most fun, silly skill in the entire game, because it grabs one of your teammates and pulls them to you. You can kill your friends, but don't do that. It's actually a really cool skill, though, and a lot of fun to use. So, all right, let's move on to tanks. Let's finish this off. All right, so my least favorite tank is, yes, that's right, the Gunbreaker. Why is Gunbreaker my least favorite? I don't know. It's not that bad, but it doesn't feel like it's that good. I think it's just the cooldowns. I don't like its cooldowns that much. Nebula is... Actually, Nebula is pretty good. That's comparable to... I think that's comparable to... Is this... It actually might be the same as, like, the Warriors. Let me just check here. I want to make sure. I don't want to look foolish. Actually, let's check the attack damage first. Reduce damage, yeah, 30%. 120. This looks, yeah, it looks the same. That's the... Oh, that's even better. Vengeance actually is better. Guessing Sentinel's the comparison. Yeah, okay. So it's pretty it's comparable to the rest of the tanks. 30% damage reduction abilities. Um, Camo, I don't know. Increases parry rate by 50% while reducing damage taken by 10. I don't know. Heart of Stone. I would say that Gunbreaker reminds me a bit of like a cross between Warrior and Dark Knight, a little bit, sort of. Actually, maybe more like Paladin and Dark Knight, because I think they've got, yeah, Heart of Light. Heart of Light reduces magic damage. I think Dark Knight has a magic damage reduction ability. I don't think Paladin or Warrior do though. No, they have their skills work a little bit differently. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't really know what it is about this class that I don't really like. They do have they have a very weird skill, Aurora, yeah. Regen, 200 cure potency and duration 18. It's actually a very long duration regen. But yeah, I don't really know why I don't like this class that much. I don't know, there's just something about it that I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. Anyways, whatever. Super Bolide is actually the... I'm going to say it's the second best of the tank. I don't know, what would you call these things? Like their ultimate maneuvers? So super long cooldown or super long recast, however you want to look at it. It only lasts for 8 seconds, but it reduces your HP to 1 and then renders you impervious to most attacks. So obviously the best way to use this is, okay, you've pulled everything, right? Your healer is having issues keeping you up, and you've dropped down to like, what, 10, 20%. Boom, you hit Super Bolide. I mean, ideally, you're using Super Bolide somewhere in the middle of the pull or like towards the end of it. Again, where, hopefully the monsters that you're fighting have dropped, significantly down health, but you're about to die, so you hit Super Bolide, and that'll give your healer a chance to catch back up and get you back up to hopefully full. So again, though, everything said, Super Bolide is the second best of the, kind of like the oh crap, like tank maneuvers. So next I'm going to say Dark Knight. Now, I will admit, though, fully, that Dark Knight has... Oh, is that really what my... Okay, yeah, I must have not changed my stuff. Anyways, alright, Dark Knight. Blackest Night is an absolutely amazing ability. It seems overpowered sometimes, especially when you're fighting the bosses, because that bubble right before a tank buster is freaking amazing. And it only costs 3,000 MP. Obviously, you're always at 10,000. Well, shouldn't say always, but a bunch of your abilities are able to restore your MP as well. So, I don't know. Again, I think Blackest Night is probably the sickest. Like, I don't know, what would I say this? It's definitely the best like shielding move that any tank has. It's just so good. It's crazy good. Unfortunately, though, you don't get it until level 70, so unfortunately you have to suffer until you get to that point. But again, Blackest Night is amazing. I actually do really enjoy playing Dark Knight. The only thing that I really don't like, though, is Living Dead. So Living Dead lasts for 10 seconds. So it says, under the effect of Walking Dead, most attacks will not lower your HP below 1. If before the Walking Dead timer runs out, though, if your HP is 100% restored, the effect will fade. If you don't get to 100%, you will be knocked out. So, it's great. Like, you're about to die, right? So you hit Living Dead. You can't be killed, basically. So you can't fall below 1%. But if your healer doesn't get you back up to 100% within 10 seconds, you die. So I will say that it is my least favorite of all of the tank, like, oh shit abilities. So unfortunately, that just really knocks down Dark Knight in my eyes. Now, obviously, if you can combine Living Dead with Blackest Night, that's really what you want to do. If you've found that you've had to hit Living Dead, I mean. It's kind of almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, though. if you've had to hit Living Dead, you probably aren't, or you probably don't have enough mana to even use Blackest Night. Or you haven't used Blackest Night enough to prevent you from having to use Living Dead. So, anyways, the only thing that, I mean, Living Dead is really good, especially if you're paired up with a White Mage, because, you know, if they've got Benediction, that solves all your problems. But it can be really difficult for the other two healers, again, unless they're really good or time things out really well to actually effectively use Living Dead. I would say in all of the dungeons that I ever ran, I only ever used Living Dead effectively probably like twice. So not a good track record. So alright, that's about the last I'm going to say about Dark Knight. Now, my second favorite, which I'll be honest, as far as the tanks go, my two favorite, I almost want to just say that they're a tie, is between Paladin and Warrior. And I'll obviously we'll talk about the specific reasons why, but Paladin obviously has the best oh shit tank maneuver, which is Hollowed Ground. Imperious to most attacks, last 10 seconds. Obviously there are some, like, I guess, boss maneuvers in the game that maybe Hollowed Ground doesn't prevent, but you know, I shouldn't say that. It's probably like raid maneuvers that'll hit you through Hollowed Ground, but as far as the stuff that you run into in dungeons, Hollowed Ground is just by far and away the most amazing ability. There's, you know, it's always effective. There's, you know, whether or not you're at 100% or, you know, almost dead, Hollowed Ground always work. It's always doing work for you. So it's, you know, a clear upgrade from Super Bolide, which even Super Bolide only lasts 8 seconds, whereas this lasts 10. So again, Hollowed Ground, just amazing. Just none of the other abilities for the tanks come close. The second thing I'll talk about is Clemency. Now, there have been multiple dungeons where, like, my healer died immediately on a boss fight, and I was actually able to keep myself and my 2 DPS alive with Clemency because it's just so powerful. Cure Potency, 1,200. And then the additional effect, restores to self 50% of the HP restored to target if the target is a party member. So, just amazing. I mean, again, like I said, there was a couple of times where I was in a boss fight and, you know, the healer died immediately, and I was actually able to keep the DPS alive with me to finish out the fight. And can't really say that for the other tanks. It's really not doable. So, like I said, I don't know. It's tough for me to declare a clear winner between the Paladin and the Warrior because they're just both so good. But I will say Warrior is just a little bit more fun for me. I don't know why. I think maybe part of it is because some of the moves are just, like, satisfying to use. So I'll say that my favorite ability here is the Infuriated Inner Chaos, and boom! I don't know, there's just something about that ability that is super, I don't know, satisfying to use. So other than that, they do have, obviously, so Inner Release is 10 seconds where you can just mash Fell Cleave back to back, or Decimate, I guess, if you want to. It just depends on where you're at and what you're doing. Obviously, if you're doing big pulls, you just, you know, slam Decimate as many times as you can. But yeah, Warrior is still my favorite class. I think it's, I don't know, it rivals Paladin for sustainability just because of the ability to heal yourself with these different abilities, and then like Equilibrium. I mean, Cure Potency, 100 or 1,200. So that's basically Clemency right there. Unfortunately, you can only use it on yourself, and it's got a really long recast. Here, Shake It Off is a really good shield or bubble, however you want to look at it, that you can actually give to your party members as well. And then there's Thrill of Battle. Thrill of Battle is just a huge, you know, gives you a huge chunk of HP. Nascent Flash, sorry, is really good. if you find you need to get some health back. But kind of like the bread and butter, or excuse me, bread and butter is Storm's Path, because every time you use that bad boy, it cures you for 250. So again, as far as the tanks go, if you do things right, it's pretty tough to to die as a warrior. But again, my favorite class by far, or of the tanks, I should say, is indeed the warrior. So that's it. Finished off with the warrior. Yeah, that's about all I've got left. The last thing I will say though is, if you're leveling, if you're on your way up, you know, the healers almost have instant pops. Same with the tanks. The DPS classes have much more of an issue in getting quick queues. One way to solve that is to use the Adventure Squad. I actually do have a video all about the Adventure Squad. The Adventure Squad can be used from like the early 20s all the way up until I think it's level 60. The problem then though that you run into is level 60 to 70. There's no way to you know, level using NPCs in a dungeon setting like that until you get to Trust. And actually Trust don't start until level 71. So that's a little bit of an issue. I don't know why they never expanded either the Adventure Squad to include some of those level 60 to 70 dungeons, but whatever, they didn't do it, so you kind of just have to deal with the queue times. But yeah, other than that, like I said, once you get into Trust, they'll take you all the way from 70 to 80. Trusts are actually terrible, though. I will freely admit that, especially if you are like a tank, because actually a tank, or I mean, I would just never advocate going in there as a tank or a healer, just because again your queue times are just amazing with those. The biggest problem with the trust though is that the trusts are basically, they only use single target skills, so everything just takes forever to kill. So it's kind of a nightmare. But again, you can either sit around again at with some of your DPS classes in a queue for like a half an hour, or you can just go in as, you know, or go in with your trusts and do it that way. So alright, that is about all I've got to say. This very well may be the last video I ever do for Final Fantasy XIV. I do think it's high time for me to move on. I'm not even going to bother talking about the crafting classes, because I think crafting has been completely ruined for me anyway. I think it's boring now, and whatever. It's probably easier. It's easier for most people to get into it, but I just don't think it's fun. And then I think, I don't know, the Disciples of the Land have always just kind of been steady. Nothing's really changed with them over time, other than like collectibles. But even then, I don't know. There just isn't a whole lot to say about these classes, because they're not, you know, they just don't take up a much of a portion of the game, and you know, it's all solo stuff, so it's kind of like whatever. But all right, anyways, that's it. Like I said, hopefully this will be, or it'll most likely be, the last video I ever do for Final Fantasy XIV. It's still the best game. I should say, it's still the best MMO in my opinion out there. Who knows? Maybe I will come back someday, but you know, again, I kind of feel like I've hit the pinnacle. I'm done. I've done it all. Had my fun. So, anyways, highly recommend the game, especially if you actually do enjoy MMOs. That's my recommendations for all the different classes. Hope the guide was helpful, and hope to see you somewhere else. Thanks for watching.